So they both trained. Jason got his green belt and Damon got his red belt. But we lived in Torrance at the time, and they got involved in sports in school. So by the time they got done with their sports, they couldn't come to Lakewood for their classes. So that's as far as they went. But my boy Jason over there, he told me he's a freshman in high school. He tells me he's going to go out for football. And he's kind of thin and hadn't been in a lot of sports. So I kind of warned him. I go, football's pretty rough. So he turns out to be a killer. He only weighed about 150 pounds, and they put him at nose guard because they couldn't block him. And he was on the quarterback so often. And then Mr. Jackson, remember you took me. I rode with you to Santa Barbara for a football game. Yes. And the first thing was Jason on the kickoff. He was the head of the phalanx, and he was the buster. So he went in and crashed into whoever it was first before they would make a tackle. So then he went into track. So he competed in the long jump, the discus, the shot put, and the pole vault. And he scored more points than the rest of the team. And he placed in almost all of those events in the league. And he was voted the most valuable player. Okay, now you go to my son Damon. So Damon he grew so fast, and he was in grammar school, and he's taller than everybody by about 1.5 feet. And I'd go to the school, and his buddies would be all hanging on him, like 3 of them. He'd be walking around with 3 guys hanging on him. So the first year, he went out for basketball, and he didn't do much. He kind of stood around on the basketball court, kind of watching people, you know. So I had a basket up on the garage, so I got him out there, and when he made the first basket out in front of the garage, it turned him around, and before you know it, he was dribbling in between his legs, behind his back. He could shoot 3-pointers. He could drive to the basket and lay up. And he was unbelievable. So he was so tall that when we went to his basketball games, the parents would complain about him. So he's not 11. He's got to be 14 or 15. So we had to take his birth certificate to show. So anyway, he had about 6 games, and then he was just upset because there was no more games because he was so good. So a friend of his that moved calls him up and says, "Hey, I'm playing all year round. Would you want to come play on my team?" So David goes, "Yes." So we took him to that game, and then he killed it. And then after the game, a guy comes out of the stands and goes, "Look it, your son doesn't belong in this league." He goes, "I got a team for him." So he goes, "I'm going to set up a tryout for him." And so I took him to West Torrance High, where his coach had a real competitive team. So he's 11 years old, and they put him on the 13 and 14-year-old team. Okay, that's how tall he was and how good he was. So he was doing really well on that team. So one day he comes home and he's really upset. He goes, "I got kicked off the team." So I called the coach. I go, "What's the deal? I thought he was doing really well." He goes, "He didn't get kicked off the team. He's so good. We don't have an 11 and 12-year-old team. We're going to build a team around him." So they start building the team. So the California Championships come around, and we only got about 6 players on the team because they just started building it. So the team was ahead at halftime all the time. But when the second half started, they ended up losing their game because they didn't have any subs at all. So they got winded and they got tired, and so they couldn't finish the game, and so on. So anyway, this a team from the K-Swiss wins the California Championships. And immediately after, the coach came up to me and said, "Hey, look, if you let Damon play on our team, we think we can win the U.S. Nationals." And so I said, "Okay, no problem." So I took him down to L.A. for all the practices. Anyway, I had the karate school, so they went to, was it Tennessee?
Florida?
Was it Florida? It was Florida. Okay. So the Nationals were in Florida, and I couldn't go, so I'm waiting for a phone call to see how they did on their first game. And he calls me up and goes, "Hey, Dad, we lost our first game." But the thing was, they took like a red eye, and they had to get up early for the first game to play, and so everyone was tired. So anyway, luckily it was a double elimination, so they went to the losing round, and then every morning I waited for a call, "Dad, we won." So they ended up playing Wisconsin, right? And that's the team that beat them the first game. So they're playing for the championship, the U.S. Championship, and they called me up and they said they won. They won the U.S. National Championship. And Damon was the most valuable player. So he, they wrote him up in the papers there in Florida. They called him the man-child. So anyway, so both my boys were athletes. Now, my son Jason, he's into kettlebells. If you guys ever want to learn about kettlebells, you look up his website. He holds 2 world records with kettlebells. Okay, and Jason, so the first one, when you did the 1 hour cycle, was it 2 45-pounders or 2 what?
Yeah, the first year was the 2 44-pounders.
Okay, and you did 296 in 1 hour?
262.
262. Okay, so you have to pick it up, raise it up, and remember 240, 41?
262.
Right, but
44 pounder.
44
20
pounds.
kg each. Yeah.
Okay, so 88 pounds. Remember, think about lifting that over your head 262 times in 1 hour. So anyway, so now my boys, my adopted boys. Okay, so we got Mr. Jackson and Mr. Hawkins started with me. What about what year? 73. Okay, they had great parents. Their parents didn't want them to get involved with the Crips and the Bloods, which was kind of rampant at that time. So they brought them into my school and said they got them started and so on. And they were so good that they pretty much lived there. Okay, and they were so good. And then Mr. Lou, his sister, Mr. Lou's sister, trained with me. Now, I don't think he likes me telling this story. But when his sister was training, he would come in and walk around the school in his diapers. Okay. So then, when he got older, then he started training too. So all 3 of these guys are champions.
Yes.
And so we started the federation, and they had the nationals every year. Okay, they would pick a team from Region 9. And Region 9 was all of California and Arizona and Oregon, Washington. Okay? But most of the schools were from California. So the year that Region 9 won the whole thing was the year that it was Mr. Jackson and Mr. Hawkins and Mr. Nakano, who was going to try to be here tonight and couldn't make it. And then we had Tammy Benet, and then the guy from Francis was Bob something. Okay, so 4 out of the 5 guys were from my school, and we won the U.S. National. Okay, then Mr. Hawkins went on to win the World Championship. And then we talked about Mr. Jackson. He decided to become a police officer. Okay? So at an early age, I hated losing him, but he moved to Stockton and became a police officer there. And then he had a career in Compton with the police officer. And then he was at Manhattan Beach or Redondo Beach. Okay, so I'm going to tell that story. So anyway, so Mr. Jackson, for years, he was with a canine. So he took care of a nice, beautiful German Shepherd and so on. Anyway, he got so many awards and so on as a police officer, and we're so proud of him. And then my son really likes him because my son Damon got pulled over one time, and Mr. Jackson's the one that stopped him. So Mr. Jackson walks up and goes, would you ask him for his driver's license?
I didn't recognize you. I hadn't seen him in a while. He was growing up. And when I stopped, I think the rules for you. Get on your cell phone?
Yeah.
And when I got his license and I saw his name on it, I immediately walked back up to the car and I said, "Is your father George?" And so then I told him who I was. He recognized me right away. It's been a long time since we've seen each other. But I've been to a lot of your I've been to your basketball games as well as his football games. I didn't do it.
Okay, so now Mr. Liu came a little bit later, and so this is I'm bragging about my school now. The first year that we had the regionals tournament, okay, so I'm going to brag again. So this last was it May 11th, something like that? Sure. Okay, we had the regional tournament. We had 21 of our students compete, and we won 36 medals. Everybody that competed won a first, second, or a third place. That was unbelievable. Okay, so in the very first one, they had team competition besides the individual. So Mr. Liu was on the orange belt team, and they won first place. Okay, then we won the green belt team, the red belt team, and the black belt team. Okay, and then we did the same thing the next year, and then the year after that, they quit. They said, "Oh, we're not having the team competition anymore." Okay. So that was because of my guys who were just tearing it up. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to introduce you to my real boys and my adopted boys.
And daughter-in-law. Woo!
That's Kristen. That's Damon's wife over there.
I have a stripe on my white belt. Watch out. shake it out.
Okay, so Maddie just got her done, which is midnight blue belt, which is the same as black belt. And besides Maddie, we have Nathania and Nathaniel, they're twins, and Evangeline. In next April, they'll be tested for their dog. Okay. So now it's time to present Maddie with her award. And so Maddie, let's go back to the one you